Should we get carry on
Just don't walk live with us like the other two.
Oh, no, I don't.
3, 2 or 3. And then come back in and act like nothing's going on.
No, I know better. I just tell you straight out whether it's good or bad.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Dawn.
Wow.
I got it.
That's all right. Okay, so my budget expenditures. Your first line item is going to be Jen, her FICA, her IPERS, and then her insurance. Down to primary elections. Again, I budgeted the $1,000, and then for your publications, $2,000. The printing of the ballots, $2,500. Postage, I just dropped that just a little bit. Mileage, $750, stayed the same. My data processing is my licenses and firmware for the election equipment. Programming is $5,500. Educational and training, $500. $1,890, and that's my warranty and maintenance on my voting equipment. Polling places, $150, stayed the same. Dues and membership, that went up a little bit. I believe my seat membership went up. That's my precinct atlas, seat, and then iVoters. We pay the state for our iVoter system based on our registered voters. At any time, if anyone's got any questions, just stop me. Election officials, next page, $8,500. And then registration services, we send out notices. That's the $250. And I always put $500 in here just in case one of my laptops breaks down, because we use that for our precinct atlas for our election register. The other is where the board was so kind to allow me to buy the voting equipment, which is very, very nice. Of course, that is all paid for. The $6,500 it's called a precinct count. And it's like, it reminds you of a printer, a laser printer, and it actually does all the absentees. I'm not buying one because I only need it for your big elections. And just for the absentees. So we're actually leasing it. So when you buy it, it's like $30,000, and then it sits around. I have a hard time swallowing that.
Well, they take care of all the maintenance and everything else.
Yeah.
Then too, so
You don't have to worry about nothing like that.
Yeah. Updated and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I just put it in there. Chances are, hopefully we won't have that many absentee for our primary, which normally we don't. But just foreseeing it's the presidential and everything, I just wanted to have my bases covered in case we have a lot of absentee.
Is that a fixed price, or is that so much per ballot they lease it to you?
That was just a fixed price he gave me.
Okay.
So, to lease it.
That don't make any difference how many ballots you got through.
No.
Okay.
Okay, and then on to our local elections. This is a year for our city and schools, so I went ahead and just budgeted what I did 2 years ago because it looked like that was sufficient. Special elections, we'll be using that in November for our costs for the local option sales tax on the ballots for the city election. Printing of the ballots for city, the school election ballots, again, I just stayed the same because that's what's worked. City elections, I went down in programming a little bit from 2 years ago. And then your data processing for your special, your school, your cities, and then all your precinct officials, which, remember, you'll see on my revenue side, city and schools pay us back for specials, that too, but that will be the county cost for that issue on the ballot. So then we're to administrative side of it. So on page 5, that is my salary. The next line item down is Jolene and Megan. The next line item down will be your new administrative assistant. I need to take BB out of there. Retirement payout, I went ahead and I re-estimated this current year since Bev is leaving us. And nothing else budgeted for next year. FICA, IPERS, employee group health insurance, that's coming out of the general fund, and that's for Bev for her health retirement. Next line item will be a single, a family, a 2-person, and then a single for the insurance. I did budget a family, not knowing. who the lucky contestant will be. Stationery and forms, I kept at 1,000. Microfilming, what we do is the transfer books, we have a guy come in every 2 years, you'll see in the history, and he microfilms that for us, so we always have it. Postage, employee mileage and subs, phone, educational services right there. Dues and membership is ISACA and notaries. And then office equipment, I just put 500 in there. And then my workers' comp. Workers' comp, if you notice on everybody's budget, I re-estimated for them. And then I budgeted pretty much what we did this current year, knowing what Wayne has brought back to me from Heartland about the rebate and it going up 5% supposedly, correct?
That's what they estimated that.
Okay. So then on my revenue, I don't have much. It's going to be reimbursement from the cities and schools, and then some computer printouts. We don't get very much of that anymore with everything being online. Cigarette permits, ID to carry, and photocopies. That's it. Any questions on the auditor budget? Not right now?
Did you use the compensation study?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I did.
That you sent out, I mean.
Yeah, I did send a spreadsheet out for everybody.
Next one.
Okay, courthouse. So expenditure side, there's your salaries for your 2 custodians and your security based on the compensation study. Their FICA, IPERS, their health insurance, food and provisions. That is pretty much an in and out for the snacks and the pop machine downstairs. Custodial supplies, we're going to keep at the same. Hand tools the same. Safety and protective supplies. The wearing uniforms is for our security. We allow them $200. So the phone is for your boiler room and security office. Utilities, your building repair and maintenance. Fixed plant equipment, that is where we're going to pay Cummins, Cone for the elevator, and TMI. And then your plumbing equipment. Exterminator, and then agricultural services, that's your spraying and your snow and trees. We just kept the same. Capital improvements, that is 2 items involved in that one. One is your phone system, which I just used an educated guess, along with LED lighting for all the hallways and the stairwell. What that details is actually a whole new fixture, and then your LED bulbs. There's a 7-year warranty on the bulbs, and the electrician says it will pay for itself in 2 years. The city is offering a rebate of $20 per bulb to help out with that. So, just a thought.
What's that amount to? How much is that?
That one's going to be with the rebate right around 10 grand.
Going back to your buildings, repairs, and maintenance.
Your sewer?
I think we should call him again.
In a meeting.
What's that?
In a meeting.
He's in a meeting right now?
No, I said we should do it in a meeting.
That's what I meant, right now?
Yeah.
We should call him.
What is the janitor's are coming? Did he
Tell him.
show up that day?
He showed up.
Yeah, he was here.
Yeah, and then
And I reported what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically.
But we just haven't heard
I think
anything.
we should
He
just
was
call him
supposed to
right
get
now
back
and tell him
to
we're
us.
on this budget right now and we needed some sort of a idea.
What's his number? You wanna call him?
here, 319-631-0958.
Must be.
Does he really know what process it's gonna take, or that's still unknown?
I know what he wants to do,
Okay.
but I don't know whether he's got an idea what it would take.
Yeah,
To
this
do
is
it.
Wayne. This is the board of supervisors calling from Cedar County. They would like to put you on our conference phone. They're in a budget meeting, and they want to talk to you. Well, let me put you on the phone so you can tell them. Just a moment.
Good afternoon, Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, good morning or afternoon. How you doing?
Good. This is the Board of Supervisors. We're just working on budget, and we wanted to know if
Yeah.
you had any figures for us yet.
Well, I've been working on it, but I called a stone guy to see if he could match that stuff if we open cut it in there, and I haven't got back with him yet. So I need to get a hold of him. I'm out digging a septic tank up right now. Why don't I will try to get a hold of him tomorrow or tonight when I get back, if I get back in time. And I'll get something nailed down for you tomorrow. Can I call this number and leave the figures with them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll try to do that. I'll get it figured out by tomorrow for you, and we'll get the prices together.
Okay.
I was gonna basically give you a price at trying to drill a new line up through there, but like I talked with the maintenance guys that day, that would go great if we know, but I don't know what I'm gonna hit on the way up through there is the problem. So I'm gonna try and figure that out, and then maybe open cutting it inside there and see if we can get it fixed that way. The biggest thing is trying to match that stonework up like we all talked about.
Hey, Wayne, is there any way that you can come up to that point and then tunnel underneath that hallway?
Well, that'll be really, I mean, it's just so far, I'm not sure how we could. We could pull another piece through that old pipe, but once again, we're not curing anything because we're going to follow the same trail. So it's going to have a belly in it just like what there's no way to get it to fluff itself up once we pull a new one through there.
Right.
But that's quite a long ways to try to tunnel, to get underneath that.
Right.
So let me get with that guy, see if he thinks he can match it or do something with it, and I'll get something back to you tomorrow somehow.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Wayne. We'll wait for your call.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. So we have to put that in once you get the figures from them and put that in the budget.
All right, and did I finish that one? Okay, and then the workers' comp I have there. The revenue side is your pop and your snacks downstairs, the 4,000 to offset your expense. So.
Was there was something came around about disabled possibly doing something like that?
Oh, I don't know.
You were supposed to have gotten that. Went around here.
Who's it blind?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. Okay.
They wanted to know whether we wanted, I think they were going to put in vending machines or something.
Okay.
It went around here a couple weeks ago or a couple meetings ago.
Did you want me to follow up with that, or what's your guys' wish?
I didn't know whether it was vending machines or whether it was actually taking care of what we're doing or what.
Yeah, I didn't understand it when I read the letter, to be honest with you, what they were going after. So.
You may have to check and see what. So it sounds like there's some law out there that protects them.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I think we better check on it and see
What it is. Okay. I can do that.
So when they used to have some kind of line come in and put all the vending machines in down there, maintain them.
They got it out of State House.
Yeah.
They did. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah.
They still do.
I forgot all about that.
Okay, next one, Terry.
Let's do non-departmental, excuse me, Department 99.
Ooh, what is it?
Okay, so we start out with emergency management. This is our contribution. We pay for the rural unincorporated. The reason why it went up is because they passed a motion on their side from going to 250 to 350. So I adjusted that. Your next division is services to elderly. Here is, as Bev kept me updated of when each person came in, organization, asking. So that's how I came up with these numbers. So your senior citizens, 13,000, volunteer services, 23, and Great River Bend, 16,965. Your dues and membership, that is your Wilton and your RC&D. As you make decisions on Thursday, you'll have to let me know what you want to add something else to it or take away. This is where your shop equipment, the 70,000 you were talking to the engineer about, putting it in rural services. So that's what that machinery is. So, solid waste is your next three items: your utilities, rural recycling, and then your trucking. Nothing on the maintenance on flood properties. I'll just inactivate that. Next line item for expense is going to be your tax increment fund. That is your CDC. Number 2. Number 1 is fulfilled, so that's why you're not seeing it on your budget worksheets. And that's for 13,000. You'll see that on the revenue side too to offset that. Township officials is next. We do have township officials that have the IPERS withheld and FICA. So that's why you're seeing that right there. Not very many of them, but a couple. Your TIF for your Cedar Valley Golf Course is what the next TIF increment is for 20,000, and then 15 for that loan repayment to secondary road fund. Top of page 4, the 1,500 is for the flu vaccine. The next item, correct me if I'm wrong, but that should be 0, right? Because with the Historical Society, we don't do the grave care anymore. That's what we came, this is the last fiscal year that we pay for anything.
No, I think that's what I brought in today. I think I think we're gonna keep it at the same. Because that's not for, this is for veterans, it's not for pioneer cemeteries.
Okay.
That's what the board asked the Pioneer Cemetery Association to do last year.
Okay.
To give recommendations.
So this grave marker and grave care, that goes in the ones, to take care of the ones that you brought the recommendations.
And that's a $4,600.
That was $45.99, right? Yeah, that's the number I got.
That's what had been spent.
That's what we wrote for that.
He got
when I was
that
in
list
here.
that you did for him, that what was.
Okay.
And I can go back and refigure if you want to do something different, but
No.
I'll have to take it back to that committee.
Okay.
I think what the discussion was that we were going to have them present their request and make sure that was used for grave markers on
We're talking the $3 per, are we on the same page here?
Veterans, yeah.
Okay. Just to make sure.
But
So we probably need to put that back in there.
Okay.
Yeah, at what rate do you want to put it back in? So I can, if I need to adjust that down, I'll have to take that to them before we meet on Thursday.
Well, 13 we spent $45.99, and then 14,
that
or 12, 13 we spent that, and 13, 14 we spent $54.16.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it at 46.
We figured it at $45.99, so that's probably what we should use.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think, if we've already got the proposal.
So we're gonna put 46 in there?
what do you want, Gary, 46 or 45.99?
Is that what you're thinking?
4,600?
46?
Okay.
Okay. And that's my misunderstanding, because I swear we were doing away with all that, doing the $3 grave care.
We did, yes and no.
Okay.
The $3, what was happening is the cities were just taking, primarily, the cities were just taking it and putting it in their general fund. So the board suggested actually taking that same amount of money and focusing it specifically on veteran gravestone care.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what's the list down here of those
Good.
projects?
So I'm not losing my mind.
It's right here.
No.
Terry, do you want that?
Yeah, I can make a copy of it, thanks. Okay, your postage, and then your auditing firm filing fees. is the 32,000. The legal, I know, we always look at that, but we just keep it in there for a safeguard, so that's up to the board. Just let me know if you want that out. Dues and membership is your tourism, ISAC, and ECIA. And then your SEDCO is your 79,176. Page 5, your minor parts. I put the $500 in here for the escape that we use to be able to do any little upkeeps, anything like that. That will cost maintenance. Stationery and forms, $500 for paper. The lobby phone, $825. Copier and supplies, $1,000. Office equipment, that's our mailing machine, the lease and supplies on that. And then your equipment insurance is insurance on the escape. Then you're going into all the liability that comes out of your general sup, your tort liability, your bonds, your real estate, your real property insurance, excuse me, equipment insurance, and then your workers' comp. That's just an extra $25 in case everything's an estimate until I do the final audit after payroll is finalized for actual numbers. The next one is your security bond premium of $75. Non-permanent. That's your real estate taxes for your county home, the land that the county has. And then the local option fund is out there. That's for improvements to the law center. I just kept the 57 in there. And then your transfers to secondary roads and then to solid waste. On your revenue side, what it's doing, it's going to go through each fund and it's going to calculate out all your current property taxes, your delinquent for each and every fund. So as you go through it has your mobile homes, it has your grain, then it goes into, it'll go into your homestead and your utility replacement, homestead credit, elderly and disabled, business property tax credit, family farm credit, your industrial and replacement. Let's see. This is where on page 10 and 11 is where I'm at. Interest from, this is a last year solid waste. They bought that tractor and the general fund loan the money to them. So they are on their last payment now. And that will be paid for then. And community action on page, the bottom of page 11, your $8,400. Your old jail, they paid that off, so you won't be receiving that dollar every year. Buildings rent will be $900. Township bonds and liability is $2,720. Your liquor license, your land rent, I pulled the agreement. That is still ongoing. The last one is on December 15th of 2015. So then I take it the board will be going out for bid again. So, and then on page 13, your very last item is your $15,000 that you saw on the expense side too, your loan to secondary roads. That's an in and out. And Bev does have that on her calendar too, to remind them the next one.
Kind of a reminder here to the next person, farm lease send notice. So usually I say to the board, you know, bring it up and you decide if you want to send. So it's August is soon enough for that, right?
Okay, what else I got left? District Court 53. This is a joint venture with CPC Julie downstairs. And you'll notice as we go through, it's the same number.
I'm not finding it.
53 is it?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Legal defense.
53. District Court. Oh, maybe, did I print them or not?
Yeah.
Oh.
District
They
court
just
is
early.
at the top.
From
Yeah,
the
I'm
court.
not
It
finding
came
it.
across
53.
this early,
Yeah.
not with this today's packet.
I can make a copy if you don't.
I was gonna say, I'm not seeing it.
Page on the 15th. Or from the first packet or stuff.
It's a short, it's a very small one.
Yeah.
I know, most of it else referred to that. Oh, if it came through the other day, I got it filed already. I'm ahead of myself.
You're too patient.
Yeah.
Find it?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
So, yeah, what will happen is Julie will receive claims and it will be out of Department 53. She'll code them. It comes out of here for expense-wise then. For juvenile court costs, I code those. We receive the information, actually a claim from the court system saying we're responsible for this juvenile for legal counsel. And that's on page 3. You'll see that has gone up. That's why I increased that line item. But there's not much really to that one. And there is revenue on that side, right around 16.5. Did Julie go through substance abuse with you when she came up? Or not?
I
Nope.
don't think she did.
Okay, that's all right. This is another one. There's several pages, but there's only certain little line items that we actually have anything budgeted in. It's going to be your court-committed substance abuse is your $28,000 there on page 1. And then you have to go to page 4 for your MECA and then legal counsel right there. And that's it for that budget. On MECA, Bev has always done all the paperwork to receive the $300 back on the revenue side. So.
Did you get that done since I got that notice?
Did you get something at home?
No, I got notice I got thrown in the Crowbar Hotel being done by the end of the month.
A notice in mail?
No, it's an email.
Oh, no, yeah, I did.
Okay.
Don't
It
send it in.
wasn't
Let's-
due till the 30th, so I don't know why they were.
Well, I know.
Don't send it in. Let's test them, see if they actually will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, then they sent me back something, so. We
What's
need a
wrong?
little more information, now you have to February 12th. So I've asked Mecca how many people they received calls from and how many emails. So they're gonna get back to me.
Okay.
Your Department 9, your human resources, rate stayed the same, so that budget did not increase. I know union negotiations is happening, but that will come out of the sheriff's budget and secondary roads, so. The last item I have is, oh, it's not here. Okay, Tim. And correct me if I'm wrong, John. On his budget for Department 38 disaster, his board approved part-time 911, right? Okay. So, he came to.
He asked us to match it.
Okay, okay. So the county would be fully funding that.
Not that I understand. 911 would be, the general would be half, and half of it would come out of 911 budget.
Okay,
That's what I understood.
okay. So, because
Am I not catching that right?
I thought the total was gonna be 20,000 for this position.
No, it'd be 20,000 out of each.
Okay. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and I created another department. Department 39, it says County 911 Coordinator. I put the 20,000 in there for the salary, the FICA, the IPERS, and employee group health insurance. I believe he did a 2-person. But he told me it was part-time, so that's only 50% that we pay. Or is this going to be a full-time position?
I believe it's gonna be a full-time position.
Full-time?
See, currently we have part-time,
Okay,
and the budget was going to reflect
For
half
that.
and half on each side.
okay,
So what he probably meant is that he would only pay half of a full-time benefit.
okay. Okay, which I did right then. So that one right there, did I
Yeah.
do,
that was with
okay.
that first batch.
Good, all right. So that's 28,780 then. So I did do the county side right. Now, at one time you said doing, us writing a check going into his account. After thinking about all that, actually, it needs to be in payroll. Because if we do a transfer then you're getting into, since it is a full-time person, we have to make them on all our payroll reports.
So how does that work from his half?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering
Get them to pay,
if we'll have to put the actual figures in the county side and then revenue from him giving us money for half of it. Does that make sense?
The way I understand it, he was gonna be half EMA, half 911, right?
no.
No. It's only gonna be 911.
Yeah, but I mean, he's gonna be employed as an employee. Half-time he's gonna be with EMA and half-time with 911?
No.
Huh.
They changed it now?
It's just
No, that's what he
911.
was asking for. That's the whole reason for it.
Yeah. It's just 911.
No, I think get a hold of Tim.
I thought he'd be in here.
I thought that the way he explained it to me was that he was gonna use Brad down there, and Brad was gonna be part-time, half-time 911, half-time EMA.
No.
Sue's shaking her head yes over there too.
He said I would use him, meaning on the EMA
Do you
stuff.
wanna put him on the speaker?
Yeah.
I'll put you on
But
the
you
speaker.
can't do that.
1499. I think
You
that's
have
the
to have
problem he's
segregation,
running
yes.
into.
That's why you have to have segregation duties.
Hello, Tim.
What are you looking for, Sue?
Tim? Hello.
Hello, this is Tim.
Tim, this is the board.
Yep.
That 911 person that you're looking at, that $20,000, is that person gonna be half-time 911, half-time EMA?
That's what we had proposed.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
So that 20,000 that we're paying is just for the half-time 911 person?
Correct.
I thought the reason we were doing that is to segregate him as a full-time 911 employee.
Well, he'd become a full-time, but he'd be doing 911 in EMA, John. So when he didn't have 911, he'd do EMA.
So the 20,000, we have to figure in the IPERS and the FICA and everything, that'd be also part of that, right?
On top of that, yeah.
Okay.
And I think Carrie has all those numbers.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got them. But there were some people thought it was gonna be a full-time, but
Well, the two top, we did talk about the two part-times became a full-time. Yes, Wayne, that was said.
okay. Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions on Carrie?
Oh.
Huh?
Well, let me ask Carrie this. Would the portion that came from the EMA need to go to the salary then or payroll?
Yeah, I think, Tim, if all this goes through, I'll budget everything on the county side, and you need to transfer 75% of that money over into our revenue.
75%? I caught that.
Okay, sorry. 50.
Okay, and I think that way they got the thing totally right. Carrie's the expert on that. Whatever she wants us to do there, we'll do that.
75% then, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that part. I think John's sitting there shaking his head no.
Okay, anything else for Tim?
So I budgeted 20 and you said 17 on yours, Tim.
Yeah, and then I had my other stuff separate.
Mike, I think it's separate.
Yeah, he separated everything. So, okay, and was this going off the compensated scale then?
Yes, I did. Everything was off compensation board.
Very good, Tim.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else for Tim?
thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I'll be able to put accurate figures, if that's what the board wishes to do.
Well, I think we ought to put it in there first, and we can always,
Okay.
see how we come out on our levy and everything.
Then I'll do a
So
revenue.
ours would, so he
Talk
did
to me.
17 and added the pipe and stuff in from the 20. You started with 20 and added everything in
Yeah.
28 something.
So,
So should we be back down around that 20?
see, that's what I'm wondering. So I'll go back to the wage scale thing and figure out.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that doesn't sound right.
he probably said 20 with Benny's, and I was thinking 20 because, yeah, and then benefits. So, yeah, I can critique that and add the revenue side of it in. So I created a new department, this one, and then public health, as you notice, had to have a separate department too. So I had to create all the codes for that, so.
Did she come in and raise her budget 12.5?
She did, and then,
Something about the car.
yeah. And I told her to talk to Rob and Julie on cars, because Julie bought that last Taurus for, it was ungodly.
She was talking
Cheap.
about buying a used car for $25,000. I says, no, you buy a new car.
Yeah,
With warranty.
yeah, exactly. So,
If
See,
you buy a
I
used
kinda-
car, it won't cost you that much.
mhm. So yeah, so I kinda gave her some history behind what we see, what comes in, where people are buying from and stuff, and prices, so. Okay,
Okay, anything else you have?
I think I covered all mine.
Data processing, Deb's got that, right?
Yeah, we can do
Bev has that one.
that. Okay, my last one.
Oh, look at her smile.
Everybody have it in front of me? I have 2,000 just data processing. I usually that's for tape, toner, whatever. Phone. I raised the phone, and the board can lower it if they want. I kind of reviewed all this with Carrie first. We've had some people say our internet's not fast enough. I called the Windstream, and we can get a T1 the fastest we can get in here. It's $2.99 a month versus we're paying $151, almost $152 a month now for DSL. But I put the T1 in here because I didn't know what kind of phone system we were going to get, if it would all be tied in. And the board can change that. If you want me to leave it at the $152 a month, I can lower that. But I put for $2.99 a month for T1 line. They'll bring it into the building, and we have to do a 2-year agreement with them once we go that route. The next line item contains the following things. I-Series support for our AS400, 2400. Managed services went up from 19,100 to 27,120. And I can give you the reasoning behind that too, if you would like.
Yes.
Gotta find it, my notes on that.
Pretty hefty job.
Yeah, they were spending more on I talked about this from Greg Davis. They're spending more on payroll than they were taking in. They will also be doing some outsourcing in managed services. And I gave everybody a sheet of what monitored managed services is. And along with that now, they're also going to be, besides doing our Windows updates and everything on that, they're also gonna be doing upgrades to our Adobe and Microsoft products. We would have to pay any license fees, of course, if the license, there is a license fee, but they do patch management, and, they will be having an 800 number for 24-hour 800 number for level 1 and 2 support. And I believe I gave everybody their letter earlier too. So they base it off the number of users you have and the number of devices. We have 72 managed devices, 8 servers, and 49 users. The other thing is, under support contracts, we were spending $20,700 a year for hourly contracts. We're lowering that down to $12,750. He thought we could lower that because the way they have their level 1, 2, 3, 4 support, and they're giving discounts. For $15,000, you're going to spend $12,750. They're giving you a 15% discount if you have their managed services for that. So the $20,700 is going to $12,750. They do web hosting. It's $500 a month, so that's $6,000. We have travel time in there for solutions if we need them, $3,600. Lockbox rental, $29. Semantic renewal for our server, $2,431. That's pretty the same. Semantic backup, exec servers, 2-3 days the same. We always budget $1,000 for cabling if we need it in an office. And domain name renewal, $100. So the managed service is going up, but we're bringing down their hourly support somewhat. So I think overall those two, and it comes out to be like a $7,000 increase, maybe. Well, let me see. We had 19,100, 20,700. That's 39,800. And now we're doing, oh no, it's about the same. We were spending 39,800 before, and now we're budgeting 27,120 and 12,750. That's about the same. A little higher. Okay, and the next one is for the auditor.
Budgeting the same, but we're getting less for our money, right?
No, I don't believe so.
They're cutting back on the service time?
No, they're adding upgrading of our Adobe and Microsoft products.
Okay.
And they're giving 24-hour support for level 1 and 2.
We had that before, didn't we?
They haven't had the 800 before, and we didn't have the upgrades of Adobe and Microsoft. So before, on these things, we were spending $19,100 and $2,700, which is $39,800. So now for managed services, we're going to be spending $27,120, and hourly support $12,750, which is $39,870 or something. So it comes out pretty close the same. Not to say, if we ran into a lot of hourly calls, that we wouldn't have to buy another $5,000 discounted labor agreement for $40,250 or whatever it is. He's anticipating we won't need as much hourly support with this managed services they're going to have. The upgraded managed services. I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure what it will need more than that $12,750 for support.
Did we have support on Adobe before?
I don't believe so. He says not. I don't know that they do our Windows updates. I don't know that they've ever done our Adobe before. And
seems to be like they're adding things to it and charging us more for it.
so
How many counties does those solutions do in the state?
Most of them.
Yeah, unless they can afford their own IT.
They do them all?
Oh, Solutions, I think, has a majority of the
They
state.
have almost a monopoly, because they do municipal and county
Yeah,
both.
because the only other person you have out there is Tyler.
And they're none.
Yeah.
There's a
So-
reason Rebecca's Solutions.
And Greg can talk to you by phone too, if you want to talk to him. You want me to go on then?
Yeah.
Okay. The auditors, under 421, that's the 602. The next one is Solutions Programming Support. They did up their user support a little bit on a few of their programs, which they haven't done for a few years. So we have Solutions and all the imaging software renewals, the View, which is software, a different way of looking at support on these. And there's something new for business property tax credit, it's $350. Carrie had me just add that into the auditors. That's what that's.
So how do you run your drainage district stuff through? Or do you run it through yours and charge them out, or?
Yeah, I'll be coming in front of the board on Thursday to ask for permission to buy the drainage district program.
I didn't
through
put anything in
Solutions.
for who's maintenance on that.
The drainage district, the county should not have to pay for anything.
So we should have to, I don't have to put
Nope,
it in this one?
you're fine, Bev.
I didn't know whether you're running it through and pulling the revenue in, or whether you're just keeping that totally separate.
For drainage district, the treasurer keeps that separate.
For the treasurer, that's pretty much the same thing. He has solution support, imaging, software renewals, and review. 9618. The sheriff asked me to put 1,463 in there for software upgrades and renewals. Now I did ask him. I know he has Mainstay does his computer work down there, and I asked him about putting that in this budget, and he said he had put $9,000 in his budget for that. So I didn't include it in here because he seemed to want to have it in his budget. So that's up to you guys. Relief and Veteran Affairs, she has some imaging software renewal things, 641. Recorder. That's like the treasurer and the auditor, Solutions, user programs, imaging and review. Assessor, that's Solutions program and support for real estate, and the board's always put that in this budget rather than the assessor. Well, the county attorney has a pro-law renewal fee, $1,900. Nursing service. They have several things, and I'll just kind of go through them here. Their old program, RAM software, they want to keep support on that because they're going to run that apparently for a while with their Nightingale Notes, the new software they bought. That's $6,720. It's $560 a month for RAM. Then
So that's a monthly charge, and they're going to plan on using it another whole year?
That's what they gave me, yeah, they told me that. And I told Carrie when I was reviewing this, you may want to talk to Jane about these figures that they gave me. I'm just.
Seems like if they're duplicating it, doesn't make a lot of sense for a whole year.
So that's $560 a month. Then they have Content Manager, that's all imaging things, a few there, $250, $177, $156. Then Nightingale Notes renewal, they gave me $17,500 for that. And then they gave me Nightingale Notes 2 additional licenses, $4,118. And then they have data, which is interfacing, it's something service they use for interfacing to their software. It's $1,080, and it's so much a month. And then they have ability for Medicare billing, that's $2,844. They put miscellaneous computer services, $1,500. And then Kofax renewal, that's for imaging, that's $204. So I would suggest if you have questions that we have
That
to talk to
support
her.
for the old fee, that's a monthly fee, is it?
Yeah, $560 a month.
Can they cancel at any time?
I don't know. Carolyn gave me these figures, and then Jane modified them. Carolyn's been out of the office, so.
Should we ask these questions now?
I was gonna say, I think
As
it's
Jane can
clarified
come
that.
up and we can continue on with the rest of your.
The next one, hardware maintenance, number 444. I have $800 in there for, Jane, this is Deb. The board had some questions about what you were requesting in the IT budget. Would you be able to come up and talk about that? Okay. All right, yeah, whenever you can come up. And then I'll give you the thing. I have $800 in there for our server, for the PC side. The warranty and maintenance is going to be running out in April, so that $800 we'll get another year's warranty maintenance on that. And then we go down to 444 for the general assistance in veteran affairs. She has a Codex scanner that she carries maintenance on, $145. I gotta find myself where I am here. Okay. Nursing service, they have $307 for maintenance on a Lexmark printer and a Codex scanner. Next one's hardware, $632. I have in there $900 for a new switch for the computer room. And I put in there for a domain server tape drive, $3,500, because it is getting old and we have some issues with backup, and at first they said we needed to replace our tape drive. Well, then I asked Mark to look at it, and we ended up upgrading our server software, and now the issues are gone. But if that tape drive fails, you're going to need another one. Or the other option is, which I didn't put in here, is Datto, the cloud, which John's shaking his head. They talked to us about that before, and the board decided not to do it. It's $7,000. It's a disaster recovery backup thing too. It's $7,843 annually. I did not put it in there. It seems like a lot. With Datto, I gave you a little sheet on Datto too. It backs up more frequently, and if you have a disaster, they can recover faster apparently. They have people monitoring it. It backs up like on an hourly or every 2-hour basis rather than every day like we do, once a day. I didn't put it in there. That's just an option the board can do if they want.
How much was it back?
It's $7,843 annually.
Which right now we do a backup every night. It does. So
yeah.
we have.
We do
have
tape
it.
backup now.
And then take it out the bank, put it in the bank.
Mhm.
That new tape, recorder was how much?
The tape drive I put in there is
35.
$3,500 because I went off of the last one we bought for the AS400.
So that's why
It's just kind of precautionary. It is getting old. It turned out not to be the tape drive this time, but it could be next time. And that backup mode is up to the board.
So Bev and I discussed, we thought that was a lot of money for
It seems like a
7,000
lot.
with what we have right now.
If you were buying a piece of equipment, a one-time purchase, and then you'd have a fee after that.
Yeah.
I could see it maybe, but this is annually, $7,843.
If you buy a new driver, you buy $3,500 for a new driver, it's gonna last you more than 1 year.
Yeah.
I hope.
So, okay, and then the auditor has in their money for a scanner and a laptop or tablet. The next one, $6,000. That is treasurer put in there for a scanner, a printer, and 2 PCs. Sheriff put $2,000 in there for 2 PCs. Recorder has money in there for 2 PCs and a scanner. 4,500. County attorney has money for 2 PCs and an Elmo machine, which I asked what that is. It's a machine that will project a piece of paper on the wall. Jane's shaking her head like she knows, yeah. So that's what they put in there. Public Health has 4 laptops, $6,000. And that's it. Now we can go back to Jane. They're on your hardware, Jane. They're asking about, no, maintenance for this. 421, the RAM support, and your Nightingale notes. The RAM support, they're wondering if you are intending to continue paying that
No.
$560 a month?
No, I think Carol and I spoke about it to get us through the fiscal year, next fiscal year, and then I don't think we'll have it anymore.
But you will need it budgeted for the next fiscal year, 15, 16.
I hope not all year.
So you're gonna run that thing 18 months, basically, over 18 months?
No, I think probably just 6. 6 has been the new one, because we started it in December here with Nightingale. I think if we do 6 and then another 6,
So
or 7 maybe.
You're gonna run it 12 more months, or 12 months total?
So
For
that
backup. And I know why. It's because of our Medicare cost report. There's still gonna be information on the AS400 that they're gonna have to pull out for the next cost report. Nothing went forward from the AS400 into Nightingale notes. It was a complete divide. So they'll have information from the present cost report from July through December 8th that they're going to have to pull off for our next cost, for this year's cost report when it occurs.
So you're not actively going to be accounting in that, you're just using it for data mining?
We have to, yeah.
Do we have to have a support agreement for that, Bev?
I don't work with that company. I don't know what they require.
Well, I'm assuming that Carolyn has talked to Bill, whoever Bill is, and that we're going to have some type of agreement with him to be able to get that information out.
And do they require you to be on for a full year?
No, that's why I think.
Because we have it budgeted for 4 years.
Yeah, I would think maybe 7 months.
So 7 times 560.
Right. Or maybe 6 months.
Well, 3,360 would be for 6 months. 3,920 every month.
No, it'll probably be 8 months. Because we won't have all of our patients. We're phasing our patients out of the AS400 whenever they have an OASIS event, which is like a admission. Any new admissions go into the Nightingale right away. We have to recertify patients every 60 days. So when that recertification comes up, that is an OASIS trigger. So then we put them into the Nightingale. So it's going to take us 60 days from December 8th to get everybody rolled in.
So you needed at least 8 months then. 8 months from this fiscal year, from July, or 8 months from now? Or 8 months from the 1st of January, or what?
8 months. 8 months from December 8th. So.
So basically, you'd only need it for.
You're gonna need it for a couple months.
Couple months.
Couple months of the
new fiscal year.
Yeah.
Because this budget don't start till next July.
Right. But it'll be in the fall when we start pulling members off for the cost report.
Next fall, or this coming fall, in 15.
This fall.
Yeah.
This fall. I have a big calendar. I figured this out a lot faster.
It's a big calendar right there.
Well, yeah, you hide it all the way over here. Okay, so we started in December, and we're going to end in July. So we're going to have probably through, I would say November or December, because I think our cost report's usually complete by November, or the information is to Ramsey by November. So November, December.
So we need it basically for 6 months of
Yes.
the budget.
So 3,360.
Well, but if
if your numbers have to be in by November, I don't know why you'd need it in December.
Well, in case we have anything that we have, that,
Discrepancies.
yeah, that Ramsey catches when he's doing, we submit the numbers to him, he does our cost report, and then he gets back with us and constantly to figure out if the numbers are correct or not.
I guess I wouldn't mind if you double check and make sure that you need a support agreement to pull information.
I will.
Because most of the time your support agreements are problems you are having and updates and so forth that are covered by that.
Right, and we don't need any of that. It's just a matter we need to
Be able to
maintain until we
access.
get those numbers out.
I'll put 3,360 in here for now, and you're gonna check to see if we need that. even?
We're actually working on kind of a month-to-month contract right now with Fran.
Is that what the board was going to do, put 6 months and then see?
Yeah, she can get some figures to us, and
I can double check.
that'd be the most she needs,
There you
and
go.
otherwise reduce it.
And then you have 3 computers, would that be for your 3 nurses?
4 nurses, well, actually we have 4 nurses plus,
But I mean,
yeah.
who's the,
It's their laptops. It's a computer.
are we on a cycle with those?
We have a rotation, I'll pick it out, Carolyn and I.
And then the Nightingale notes, I told them you have 17,500 for your renewal, and then 2 additional licenses, 4,118, correct?
Yeah, we were told, in fact, actually, I'm just in the midst of writing our salesperson a little note about this. During the time that we were debating which software to purchase, I questioned him about 5 licenses, and he said, that'll be plenty. Well, prime example today, this afternoon, we can't finish up some homemaking admissions on the computer because all of the nurses are in doing their documentation, so that's 4, and Diane's on doing billing, that's 5. So we get kicked out. I mean, I do, and Andrea do. We give the priority to the nurses and second priority to billing. So I need to tell him that 5 licenses is not adequate. I don't know. He says that he has other agencies, but I want to know who and I want to talk to them. Because
Does that happen at all, that all your nurses are on there at one time?
just Monday through Friday in the afternoons.
Monday through Friday in the afternoon?
Mhm.
Well, that's most of the time.
Yeah.
Very much. It's pretty
Okay,
expensive
good.
software to not work.
It works, and I want you to know how perfectly it does work because Carolyn just forwarded some emails that she had received from Bill from RAM, our old system, and January 1st was a switch over to a different OASIS form and a different place where you have to submit them to. And on Nightingale Notes, we've been submitting without any problems to this new place. Well, the emails that she got from Bill, from RAM last week, I think, had nobody that had RAM service had been able to submit. And you have to have them in 30 days after admission or after the certification. But there were some glitches with the AS400 where they couldn't get them in. And luckily, we only had 1 patient that we discharged that we didn't move over to Nightingale Notes, that we had to go in and submit an OASIS yesterday when Carolyn was here, and it went finally.
Good.
Are you, refresh my memory, are you posting for that job?
No, we handled it as an internal promotion. Why?
Just wondering. So it's that position's filled already?
But you'll have another opening for the other position, which will
For
advertise.
home care aid. To replace the one that did.
And Paul was, you use Paul and all that?
What, I'm sorry, what?
You use Paul and check with Paul and all that?
He was on the committee that approved and assigned the wages to or the pay grade to.
But I mean, as far as the.
Advertising.
Oh, no,
Internal.
I took it from our meeting here.
Okay.
You
I'm
just
just
should
thinking.
double check it.
Okay, I'll call him.
Okay, anything else for Jane? Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Be interested to go to
Is
the
that your,
society, there's no meeting.
that it?
That's all.
We used Paul
Okay.
and he said it was okay.
Did you do that?
I'll be interested to see what Paul has to say.
All
I think
prepared,
everyone
so,
should have
yeah.
a fair shot at it.
Do you have anything else, Gary?
I don't think so. I've got
I'll
my
give you
8
those
budgets done.
changes. I'll
Kind
give
of.
you a couple changes.
Kind of.
Get
Sounds good. All right, thanks.
Need something, Betty?
I do. Could I ask you guys to amend the agenda for an emergency kind of situation? Potentially for a general assistance client?
I'm gonna have to go get my recorder if you're gonna go in the closed session.
You know what?
It's not gonna be closed, I won't divulge
Oh.
any name,
Oh.
but there's a situation I need your approval for because it's above and beyond my normal rules, so I needed to ask and kinda needs to be addressed here in real quick hurry. Can we do that?
For dental services?
No, it's for housing, because there's somebody that's homeless that has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and they have no place to live other than their car. And I just got the phone call and they can't get me an application. I'm working with a social worker. The social worker called me. So I need to try and see if I can do some housing for them without the application and for an extended, other than 1 day, which is normally how we would treat a transient. They've been living with a friend, so they aren't technically Cedar County residents, which they would classify under the transient portion of our ordinances. And normally we only help for 1 day, but it's a family that he just got a job, started working this week, but they have no money, and where they were living, I guess the situation got pretty ugly. So now they have no place to stay with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Although he does have employment here in the county, but I need permission to go above and beyond my normal realm in the situation. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know if there's a homeless shelter that can accept them in as a family unit. That's kind of one of those tricky things, and it's above and beyond what my norm would be of making decisions, and this is one of those that I have to ask for you guys to give me permission.
How many dollars you looking at?
Yeah, my dollars are fine on the general assistance side. I mean, what it would be is me looking at seeing if I can do something with the Tipton Motel just to put them up for, maximum, normally we only do 1 night, so I kind of have to see I refer them on to churches to see if we can work with the churches with using some of their money too, but I don't have an application, so this is kind of against the grain of, me being able to see that application right now, but I would have it tomorrow to do it, but I don't want them living in a car tonight.
Yeah, no.
So, and they're not really transient, and it would be for an extended, until we can get the churches to get enough money to get them deposits and first month's rent and stuff. But the max would be, I would think, a week that I would be able to do that. And which would be probably equivalent, not even equivalent to what we would pay for rent for 1 month for a family. So it still would fall within that. But I just need permission to do that. If you all would give me that, because I
have no problem with it. Do it for tonight if you get the paperwork tomorrow.
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm like, I have to have the paperwork tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's gonna be no question. If I don't, then it's over. Then they get 1 night and that's gonna be it. But, but I just wanted to make sure because it's above and beyond what I would normally do for where they qualify in the transient part. But it is something that it's a livelihood of 2 children. So, is that okay? All right.
Anybody got any problem with it? Brad, Don, Jeff, John?
Probably should,
Just make sure you.
I think we probably should amend the agenda and have a motion on it.
Okay, you want to amend the agenda?
Move to amend the agenda.
Okay, the motion's been made by Bill. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Second by Kaufman. Roll call. Bill.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Gallo.
Aye.
Dewberg, aye.
Thank you very
Okay,
much. I apologize
so we
for
need a
interrupting.
motion to that effect then?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very
Well,
much.
we gotta, don't we have to move to get her
Move to
permission?
authorize the general relief to provide housing until the application is in hand, and we can see and help them get started here.
Okay, the motion's been made by Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gallo. Roll call. Bell.
Aye.
Gallo. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
And Dewberg, aye. You got it.
Thank you.
Melissa?
Where do you want me to start?
The top and best.
Revenue expenditures?
Expenditures.
All right. Recorder's salary had the 5% increase. My deputy went by the comp studies information for $40,367.
Why is that going down?
Because I've always budgeted for 85% in case she
Okay,
could
it's just
be
for
at the
85,
full.
but that's a comp study.
Mhm.
That's their thing. Okay.
Yep. And then for my other help, $30,280 per comp studies recommendation. FICA, $9,408. IFRS, $10,982. Group insurance, $51,386. Then for recording parts, same, $2,500. Stationary forms at the $2,000. Magazines, books still at $500. Recorders management for magazines, books still at the $6,000. I guess for Dawn, that recorders management money is some money set aside. We get money with every document that's recorded. That goes to a separate fund and is used for like restoration of books. So that restores typically 3 books with binding issues. Legal publication, $250 stayed the same. Slight increase on postage. This will be the 15-16 budget year will be a back-to-back renewal period for us. So we'll have ATV and snowmobiles and then go into boats. So that went up $3,850. Mileage stayed the same at $1,500. Phone the same at $1,500. Education training still at $1,000. Medical health still at $100. Office and data processing equipment still at $1,000, and that money is used. We have maintenance per copy fees. We have 2 copiers in the office, so that money goes towards that. The miscellaneous, that's our microfilm storage, stayed the same at $475. $325 for recorders dues. Office furniture and equipment at $500 stayed the same, and office furniture and equipment under recorders management stayed the same at $4,500.
Going back to that deputy salary, you say you budgeted it, and we paid it. What does she make a year now?
She makes 80% of my salary.
So your salary.
So right now she's at
$39,866.
I have the letter.
Your salary was $49,833 last year, or this year?
I should have my letter in here. Yeah, $39,866.40 annually.
$39,866.40. That's
Yep.
what your salary is.
That's 80% of my salary. That's what she's.
What's your salary?
This year?
Yeah.
$49,832.
That's 80%. That comes to $39,865.60 she made last year, right?
Yes, she will at the end of the year.
Okay, so then, now she's going to 40,367, right?
Correct. Per the comp studies hourly wage.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard back from you guys about whether it was legal or not to pay that hourly wage to my deputy, but I budgeted it.
Well, the other thing I was getting at was a minus, and I, seeing the minus there, the comp study was not going to take wages away from anybody. Nobody loses money.
Correct. She
But-
just hasn't ever made the
But
85%.
You over budgeted.
Yeah.
You budgeted 85, but you only made the 80.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the case that she could make the full 85%, but in my office she's not able to perform all of the duties.
Okay.
So in the next item is 30,280. What does that represent? Does that represent?
That's my clerk.
Yeah. Okay. It actually represents the clerk wages.
Yes.
Okay. Not the deputy that you proposed earlier.
No, I didn't even figure those amounts for you since I hadn't heard back from you.
Okay.
I mean, I have the numbers if you wanted them, but since I hadn't heard, I didn't calculate them.
Well, I don't think we've even made a decision on the clerks yet, but from the emails that I got from Paul is that you don't have to have a clerk to sign off on things.
I sent out an email message to 99 counties, and I also pulled up from our recorder's manual, and it says that we designate the duties. I did talk to Lee Biney because I remember that there was always a reference to a lawsuit, and that's why duplicate titles and lien releases were never handled by a clerk in the office in the last 14 years that I've been here. Charlene had always referenced that there was some type of lawsuit. So once Jeff got back from vacation, I sat down and visited with him, and he didn't have any information on it because it happened prior to him being county attorney. So I did have a chance on Friday to visit with Lee Biney, who did recall the lawsuit involving the county. A clerk had issued a duplicate title on a boat, he said, that had a lien on it with the U of I credit union. So that person apparently got the duplicate title from our office and sold it to someone else without a lien on it. So there was a lawsuit. Lee didn't know that he still had any paperwork on it, but he did know that it was a boat with U of I, and he said he would check to see if he had any other information. Because in the last 14 years, I haven't, as a clerk, there hasn't been a clerk that's issued a duplicate title or done lien releases. I also visited with the former deputy prior to me, and she couldn't recall that they had done, any clerks had done that, but Lee thought it was also prior to Charlene being recorder, and that's what I had remembered. I haven't found anything in her file about that. As far as the other duties, what I would like to pass on, I would like to make my clerk a deputy so she can assist with those duties. Haven't been done by a clerk in our office in the last 14 years either. So I did send out an email to 99 counties. I haven't had time to put them in a spreadsheet. Recording's been very busy this week, but 58 counties replied total, and 56 counties said that they would not allow their clerk to sign off on their vitals, records, reports, and issue the checks. 2 counties said that they have them trained to do it if the possibility were to happen. And I think 1 county said she only allows her clerk to sign as a second party on the check because their state auditor requires them to have 2 signatures. And then I asked about lien releases, if they allow their clerks to do those, and they were split on that. It was like 33 had said no, and I believe it was 20 had said yes. 32 had said 32 had said no, 23 had said yes, and 2 of them said they would possibly allow them to. And like I said, I was assuming that our policy in the office had to do with the lawsuit that they were involved in with that boat being issued. So I forwarded the recorder's manual with the sections that talk about the different code sections and duties to you guys and to Paul. So he just told me to forward it on to you guys because there's specific code sections about duties.
To me, it don't make sense. So if they're a clerk or a deputy, that lawsuit don't mean anything. A deputy could have done the same thing, you know.
Right,
signed off
except
a
for
duplicate, or this clerk could have done it.
Except
You know,
for
to me,
the
that'll
code.
cut water with me.
The code does say in that recorder's manuals that there's if it's a deputy, they take on that personal liability for the errors that are done.
They take on it personally, or the county insures them to take that on?
It talked about they may be bonded, but they don't have to be.
So are your employees bonded? Are you and your deputy bonded?
I don't know. It says any loss of money caused by the deputy shall be paid by the deputy, or that a surety on the deputy's bond. But
yeah, I think we need to look into it a little bit.
Yeah, and like I had forwarded it to Paul. He just said forward it to you guys, so I did, and that's been the policy. That's been the policy in the office the last 14 years. So that's what I was going off of, and I mean we can continue to operate as we are. It's just she's at that point where I would feel where she wasn't priorly. I wasn't working on her with the vital records reports because we're going electronic. Now I've been working with her, but it's not, I can't allow her to sign them. So, I mean, it's up to you guys. It's just, I would feel more comfortable if I had 2 deputies. We had 2 deputies and 1 clerk in the office prior, and there was a need that the board gave the former recorder 2 deputies. But it's your decision. You have that resolution, so it's ultimately up to you.
Well, I think we need some more information first, even find out, you know, if you and your deputy are even bonded.
Yeah, I'm sure Carrie would be able to.
We need to find that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't made a decision on it yet, so.
And you said you had the figures, how much money, what's the difference between what you have budgeted here as it stands and if she was a deputy?
Yep. So, let's not copy that down. So instead of the $40,367 and removing the other help, which would be the clerk, that line item for deputy would be $76,944. I figured that's with the deputy that's currently figured at the comp study wage, and then I took the second deputy. I wouldn't want to pay her that $20 and whatever that Paul had referenced. I felt more comfortable at 70%, which was less. It was $19.97 an hour. So that portion would be $36,627 instead of where it has other help.
So you're basically looking at a difference of like $6,300
right.
or something like that.
Right. And then for FICA, instead of the $9,408, it would be an increase of $485 for $9,893. And then for IPERS, instead of the $10,982, it would be an additional $567 for $11,549.
So total increase would be how much then?
Yeah.
It would be It would be $7,399.
And that would all go to your second deputy? 'Cause your first
With FICA, IPERS,
right, but that
and wage, yes.
would not affect anything on the first deputy?
Correct. Nope, she's already figured at the comp studies.
I can remember when Paul talked to us about the comp study, he said a lot of counties do not have any deputies. They put them all on hourly wages. No deputies.
And actually, I didn't have a chance I didn't want to bog down their emails too much with asking questions, but I actually heard back from quite a few recorders. They don't have any clerks, they only have deputies. So I can send out another message to see, how many clerks, how many deputies, how many number of people. It's just time consuming when I'm a working recorder. But yeah,
Well, I got enough information that was sent out to me. I don't know if anybody else needs any more information.
But yeah, I mean, I can ask whatever you want me to ask. On to revenue?
Go to revenue.
Okay. I left the interest on investments the same, $30. Interest on investments for recorders management at the $20. Recording of instruments, that one is at $82,500. This fiscal year I had $85,000. The previous year I had budgeted $75,000 and I had raised it because we're kind of on that trend. I serve on the ESS committee. We've done budget amendments this year because they're kind of seeing a decline of document recording. I haven't seen that much of a decline, but I felt like raising it $10,000 last year that I didn't want to be too over what the trend is, I guess. There's also a possibility that some of the stockholders are looking at flat recording fees statewide with recorders. And that would be either per document or possibly like a tiered number. So I felt more comfortable dropping that by the $2,500. They somehow projected out, and they don't think Cedar County's going to lose any money with this tiered recording fee or this flat fee, but not knowing how that's going to affect us, or it may not even pass legislation to do so. I just felt better dropping that down since I had raised it $10,000 last year. Snowmobiles, I kept that one the same at the $500. Last year, snowmobilers and ATVers had the possibility of renewing online through the state. The state went out and sent like press releases, so some people have that ability. Once it's registered in their name, they can do it online, so that cuts out the county. So I left that one the same. We haven't really felt the effects of that, but it could.
Is ATVs underneath there also?
Nope, it's separate.
Okay, have you seen any increase in those since we passed it over?
I got a note on that one when we get to it.
Excuse me.
That's okay. Boat renewals is up to $2,000. Like I said before, this is a renewal year. So January through April in 2016, we'll have renewals of those. So that's why that one's raised $1,650. Boat liens, same at $100. Hunting and fishing fees, the same at $600. That one, 3 years ago, hunters and fishermen were able to do a 3-year license. So that kind of cut down the money because they're only coming in every 3 years, and people have continued to do that. They can also buy those online. So I kept that one the same. But that may be a trend in the future where we're bringing in less money for that. real estate transfer tax, I left that at the $18,000.
Explain that.
That's the tax that we collect on deeds when they're transferred.
Okay.
So, and I had raised that last year by $2,000 because it was previously at the $16,000. We've still had a lot of transfers of property, big farm ground, that I didn't lower that one. I debated because I did lower document recording fees, but we've had a lot of mortgages where that's not really affected by the deed transfers.
Refinances don't.
Right. Releases, assignments, that type of thing. UCC's still at $250, and then all-terrain vehicles. That one I did raise. I raised it $75. We have had increase with the road resolution. My worry about raising it too much was, again, that's one where they can do online renewals. And it all depends on how much publicity the state puts out about, hey, you can do this online. We still send out postcards, and people appreciate that they get a reminder to renew with us, but ATV liens at $150 stayed the same. ATV titles, $500. Auditor transfer fees, that's on the deed type documents, still at $5,500. Boat fees for title, $350. Vital statistics, that's the fee that we collect for birth, death, and marriage certified copies. I raised that $1,000. We're able to now do death certificates for anywhere in Iowa when they pass away. When we switched to this electronic death system, I had called and talked to all of the funeral home and directors in our county and explained our process, because the state kind of said, we get a request online that tells us we have death certificates pending, and then once we receive payment, we can process. So these funeral directors can get death certificates in any county. So if they're going to Iowa City, they can stop by and pick them up there, or they can come to us. So I explained our process. We have had a huge increase in death certificates. This morning, we have 40 pending certified copies. So when they're pending, we're just waiting for a check or them to come across the counter or it to come in the mail. I see it increasing with birth records. They haven't told us a time frame yet, but birth records are going to go electronic, which will be a huge service to the public, because you aren't going to have, if you were born in Iowa, you can go to any county in Iowa, where now we have to send you to the county you were born in. So I think it will be wonderful once it starts.
That's to get a birth certificate?
Yeah, yeah, I don't have any date on that.
And I'll tell you what, it's a pain if you gotta have a copy of your birth certificate, and of course you gotta have it right now.
Yeah, so I don't have any time frame on that. Or we have some areas for death certificates where there's a year here and a year there that they can't get the death certificate from any county, that they have to go to the county where they actually passed away and or own property. But for the most, any of the current deaths they can get from any county. And we've actually had a lot of the funeral homes, they just get them from us. I was surprised because when I had visited with a few of them that are on the border, they said, well, we might just do it here and there. And wow, one of them had 25 that they had sent to us today. So, but I think we'll be bringing in more than 1,000, but that was just looking at the numbers and doing my best that I could. But we had, this month we've had 93, and up until today, and then today we have an additional 40. So then I have the document management fees. That one I dropped $250. That one goes along with the document recording fees, because a portion of the fee for recording goes to document management. The passport fees I increased $500 and $500 increase for passport photos as well. Marriage license fees, I kept the same at $300. Photocopy fax fees at $5,000. We've made the $5,000. Well, I guess it was $4,000 in 2013-14, but we had $5,700. We've been back scanning the records that we have in our office. So we have some smaller books that we're able to use our scanner for. We have our records for real estate index from 1984 forward are on the computer. I would like to get images to match up to 1984, so everything on the computer has an image that we've scanned. Everything's been microfilmed, but we don't necessarily have an image of it. So in the past year, we've back scanned 2 years worth of records and have those on our site on the AS400, and then they're also sent out to Iowa Land Records. A second backup is every night, everything that we've indexed for the day goes to Solutions, and it's on our internal website, so everything's backed up in that sense for everything that we've imaged that day or indexed that day. So if there was a disaster and it was after, I don't know if they have a time of 4 or what time they pull things at night, but it would be sent every day as a backup. So our photocopy fax fees, we do refer a lot of people to Iowa Land Records. It's a free service. They can view and print for free. I foresee maybe those fees dropping in the future because we'll have so much out online that they can pull that information on their own, and we aren't actually faxing it to them. But a lot of people prefer to call us and have us send it. And then overpayments, I had left the same at the $200.
Going back on your expense side, the passport pictures, I'm sure you got a cost to doing a picture, don't you? What's that under there, the cost of doing that? For the material, I mean, the film or something?
I actually had to buy a new passport printer this year, which is why my parts went up, because the printer itself was $700. Our printer died on us. So yeah, the parts like the equipment, the camera, we have a camera, we have a printer. I have photo paper that we order, so we get a big crate of it.
What is that?
And that would be under stationary forms, would be my paper for it. The printer was under the parts and equipment, and that's one that I called him and looked at prices for a new system, and he said the camera that we have, it's a digital camera, it's a good camera. The printer has issues because it's this photo paper that the gears go out because it's feeding it through, but he said he doesn't have much problems with the digital camera.
How much are our passports now?
Passports are $135 total.
For how long?
That's a brand new one. A renewal one would be $110 for a book. For a new one, it's $135, and then either way, you would need a photo, which we do charge $12 for photos.
And how long is that good for?
10 years for adults. Children are good for 5. And we have 2 schools that we had sent information out to that are taking trips. U.S. Department of State hasn't announced any Passport Day in the USA yet. That's an additional weekend. They'll offer us a Saturday that we can come in and do passports, and we've done that in the past whenever they throw out a date. Now, a few times they postponed the dates because of federal freezes, and we had to advertise for it again, but no, it's a service that we do. We do renewals. We help them with their photos. They don't have to come to us for renewals. Renewals you can do on your own. But a lot of people like to stop up and make sure they just have everything assembled right and get their photos taken.
Okay, any more questions, comments for Melissa? Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks for coming down.
We have
Take
fidelity and security bond premium that we had is covered in the budget with Carrie. We pay $75,000 on those.
So they are bonded.
Yes, she should have known that.
I couldn't imagine
Take
that
5.
they weren't when I don't know do that.
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Sue, you got one of these, didn't you? With what the one got? You did? Anything like that?
Do you need a minute?
It's not, it's just,
Just in case you wanted to follow along a little bit.
yeah, I'm taking it for attention. That's why I had a cough on the radio the other day. So
I forgot my GA budget downstairs.
Can't help you.
I grabbed one folder, not both of them downstairs. Oh, that's good of me. I'll have to run downstairs and get it in between.
Need to go down and get something?
Yeah, I left my GA budget downstairs.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll try it. I'm irritating you. Coffee since Christmas.
All choked up. You should go to Diet Coke instead of regular Coke, right? You're better off.
I'd actually rather have.
Diet has aspartame.
Do that, let it do.
This is always in the refrigerator, as you can tell. We're a little light up.
Is it past its freshness date yet?
I can't tell.
Best if consumed by December 3rd.
August of this year.
August.
Okay, we're okay still.
Oh, this year.
If those two fellows can climb up to the Capitol last year, I can handle some out of date Coke.
Yeah. O2 therapy.
I think she's got those regular cemeteries, a few pioneer cemeteries. She's got tax delinquent status and everything on. And I think she's thinking of ending, which isn't correct. So I'm gonna have to go talk to her.
It's not pushing snow. It's
Yeah.
not pushing snow.
Somebody else asked me that. I didn't wait too much of that.
Gotta be good.
That's why I go like this all the time.
On the lever?
It's hard for me to explain.
Okay.
What are you gonna do first?
I'll do VA and then the commissioners can leave and then we can do the GA. Is that okay? I will introduce them. This is the chair of the commission, Bruce Jeffries.
Okay.
Then there's John Sauer and Marlon Hillier and then Virgil Kruckenberg. Greg Bell isn't able to be here because he's secondary roads and working. But that would be the 5 commissioners. You want me to go line by line?
Yes, please.
Okay. With your packets, we prepared a couple of different things for you. I don't know if it's easier to view that way or if you want to do the regular budget sheets. You tell me which ones you want to go through. Which one makes it easier for you to see?
Try the regular budget sheet.
Okay, the regular budget sheet. That has, with a salary increase to $39,284, which is the 8-year step on the compensation studies findings. It also has in there the commission would like to see about putting a per diem person in the office that would cover during absences for training or vacation, emergency medical situations like we just had this past winter. But they would be basically a person to help with walk-ins, answer some basic questions, eventually be able to help out with applications, like if somebody were to apply for assistance. The problem with it is that person would only be a per diem, so there's no guarantee in hours. They can only be there when I'm not in the office, which is, you know, we've been trying to figure out how to get around it. And with me talking with another department head, Jane from Public Health, came up with kind of a little, I asked her if she would be willing to share one of her part-time direct care workers that maybe has computer skills or something like that, that they could just be a person to answer the phone, do no federal claim files at this time, but be just there for county, basically, just to be a face and not a closed door. And she said yes. So with allocation funds and funds that we freed up on other line items by realigning monies that we found out we could do from the state of Iowa, we still meet the criteria in our administrative section to qualify for the $10,000. As you, just for Dawn's benefit, I guess, and maybe just as a reminder, in order to qualify for the $10,000 allocation, we have to maintain a level of spending in our administrative budget. Otherwise, if we dip below our previous year, we don't get the $10,000. So even with the changes in the salary, the changes of a per diem person, you'll note as we go down here, there's been line items that have been zeroed out because those are going to be supplemented with the allocation, because it's an approved use of allocation money, because that can only be used on administrative uses. So
on that salary, how much is the per diem on that? You got salary and salary other help.
Yeah,
both
it's
in there,
$14.18, which is the starting salary according to the
but
pay
how much
scale.
of that total, the $39,284, how much is yours and how much is per diem?
That full $39,000 is mine. The line item below the $2,900 is the per diem person.
So this $39,284 was what the comp study came up with, correct?
It is exactly on the pay scale. It's the level 8. It's the 8-year mark, not the start mark where you guys are implementing. The commission chose to implement at the 8-year mark.
So what the
it's a pay
comp
grade
study would have said would be what?
What the comp study, that is the findings of the comp study. That is an approved salary in the comp study. It's just at the 8-year mark.
So that's the number that Carrie sent down to you that you should be using.
No,
correct?
that is not.
So what is that number?
That number is, just a second, let me look. On my original sheets, that would have been $35,590. And that was originally what I did send to the commission members, was the $35,590 as you guys instructed.
And did the commission, I understand that your commission was, you commission folks were understanding the study was going to be done and agreed to go along with what the study produced. And now we're going to go to something different, correct?
We agreed to go ahead with the study. I don't know if we said too much other than that. But I feel like we are going along with the study. We're using different implementation slot, but we're not pulling a figure out of the blue either. Our implementation point differs. We feel paying for that position downstairs to serve our veterans is very important. We need someone that has skills are required to do quite a bit on the federal level. our commission is veterans, and we feel we're looking out for our Cedar County veterans. It takes quite a few years to get understanding of the networking of all, especially on the federal side, where we're able to push a lot of our Cedar County veterans to grab money at that level rather than our county level. We have, I don't know, I think it's 300 or 400 less veterans now than we did just a few years ago, but we're bringing in more money than we did when we had more veterans. So we're bringing in more money with fewer veterans. So we think we're serving our county that way, and we want to keep somebody that is aware of all these things and is nationally accredited and has the expertise to do this. We do feel like we're maintaining spending levels. We are realigning some of the line items. There is no administration total change by changing the salary of the administrator. It's still $1,874, I think I figured, is still the difference from last time. No additional finance allocations other than that, and then we'll fill in the line items as we have recently found out that other counties are doing, and that these are state approved usages, which we were not really completely aware of that before.
So the increases that you have on here, they're going to get paid out of this $10,000 or $11,000, whatever it is that you're getting from the state?
Well, the increases themselves are coming from funding that the county has already funded the office, because you cannot use the allocation money to fund an increase, but you can use the allocation to fund line items that you were already funding. So in turn, the key here is you cannot, if you take money, which you as the Board of Supervisors have every right to do, to cut the bottom line by whatever the commission has decided to do an increase, that's your right. The issue is it'll come out of administrative, which means we fall below the sustainment of our level of spending and administration money. You have to maintain a certain level of spending. There was no line item increases in any of those line items, and the only increase in the overall budget, even with adding a per diem person, is the amount that you as Board of Supervisors already authorized in a salary adjustment. But the $10,000 or the money for the increases is actually coming from other line items that were already being funded by the county with county funds, and that are part of that sustainment money that we have to use.
And that's ongoing, it's not just a one-time shot?
No,
I mean,
no, it's ongoing.
I guess I'm a little concerned about if we hire somebody and then those funds dry up, then how do you?
Well, if you hire somebody, they don't necessarily
They're not guaranteed.
They're not, you know, then the salary is a fluctuation again of what, you know, based on the rules of which is in that compensation study, depending on their experience and things like that, depends on where they get hired on the pay scale. They don't necessarily have to start at the starting line.
So if you don't use that $10,000,
what happens to it?
Goes back.
It goes back.
Yeah.
If we don't maintain the level of spending, then when the check comes, we have to turn it right back.
So what did you spend it? Do you have detail what you spent it for last year?
I don't have it here. We spent it on additional. We bought outreach items for handouts. We did extra trainings. We bought leather binders, which you'll all find because I'm going to be asking all of you to sign certificates of appreciation for veterans of Cedar County. Some extra office expenses. I prepaid like $1,300, I think, on the cell phone bill. You know, in order to spend the $10,000, we were grasping at straws because, first of all, we can't hire a person, which a lot of offices do, is they use that money to hire a person. We can't do that because we have no place to put a person. So that's where the per diem comes in. That's our way around that, is to keep coverage even when I'm not in the office, but that's the only way to do that is if I'm not in the office. But it was spent on a lot of things, a computer, We paid off the copy machine. They're all things that now we don't have those expenses, and right now we have about $4,000 that as a commission we are struggling trying to come up with ways to spend that $4,000 that are not just throwing the money away and using the money appropriately to do.
Are you only going to use this secondary person for when you're like on vacation or sick, or are you going to use it for?
It'll be for coverage when I'm at training, which I'm at training usually at least three weeks out of the year. One in the spring, one in June where it's the National Accreditation School for CEUs, and one in the fall. And then it would be vacation. On average, we figured about, and then we were hoping to do maybe 5 hours every other week, which would allow me to go out to nursing homes, do some outreach that way, or even make my hours later at night, and then, but somebody would still be there on one day a week to make that coverage so the office wasn't closed, but to accommodate some people at night. I know Johnson County right now has been doing Saturdays this month, for that way people aren't having to take off work. You know, but if I'm here late at night and I adjust my hours, then they have the complaints of, well, I come to her office and she's never there, you know, because I have to adjust back and forth, and so then you have days of non-coverage. I'm on vacation and I get phone calls about funerals or about who's eligible for assistance, or when, you know, I'm in the hospital with my mom and I'm taking phone calls about things. So we're trying to make it so that there's coverage and somebody in the public is able to get served the way they should be, and not leaving them hanging dry, which is kind of the problem we've been having with a one-person office.
If that 10,000 would happen, you didn't use it, go back, is that hard to get it back?
You would have to raise up to where it was before it dropped off. You have to maintain that level of spending in order to keep getting that 10,000. That's part of the rules of the allocation. Because they're trying, you know, this is an encouragement by the state to promote growth within the veterans and meeting needs of the veterans administratively. You know, sometimes it's, like I said, some offices are able to hire somebody because they have office space. We don't have that option. We don't have office space. So the only time somebody could be there is if I'm gone. So that's...
Do all the vets come into your office for services, or are you able to do house calls like to the nursing homes and that kind of thing?
Right now I'm not able to do that because
who comes in, how do they get your services?
A lot of times the family members of the veterans that are maybe housebound come in and I work with them, or I work with the veteran over the phone. Do a lot of that kind of stuff. I have made some visits to a nursing home. You know, I've left early in the day to go make a nursing home visit, or I have gone to a widow's house that was housebound that didn't have family. But on regular occurrence, that's not something we are able to provide, because if I'm gone and making visits to, you know, someone's house, I mean, a visit, depending on what I'm doing, can take a couple hours, depending on whether I'm prepared for that visit, have everything I need before I go there, and all I have to do is go through the paperwork and have them sign, or if I'm actually preparing it in their home, depending on what they're completing. I mean, a claim file for a veteran, depending on how difficult, could be a couple hours worth of work. And most of the time, you know, for me, that would mean that I'm out of the office, and that would mean that the walk-ins and things like that are not being addressed. And we have the driver's license people. I don't know how many didn't get their driver's license signed when I was out of the office for those couple of weeks. But boy, they made sure they hit me right away when I come in and got their driver's license for the veteran being on there. And we are also looking at potentially having the recorder's office as a backup on that right now, until the new fiscal year starts, where we could do a per diem person to have them help out with doing signing off on the driver's license certification, because they do handle the DD-214s up there. They do have a little bit of knowledge of the discharges and what they look like. But I mean, you have to be very particular. There's state code on there that you have to follow to make sure that somebody qualifies for that designation. So there's a, you know. So
the person that's the part-time person you mentioned earlier is basically going to be a phase, take information. They won't have the ability to do that stuff.
They're not not at this point. Is that something that we could potentially look into? Potentially, but then that means that the trainings that I have to attend, they also too would have to attend, which would defeat the purpose of having coverage. So if I'm gone because I have to get CEUs, you have to maintain CEUs, a minimum level, in order to keep your accreditation. And they would have to attend schools just like I do that, and that would kind of be defeating the purpose of having them. Could they do some bare minimum? There's like, they could probably fill out a health benefits application for the VA. That doesn't require a whole lot of, do you qualify, don't you qualify? It's not up to us to make that decision. It's a financial thing on the VA's part. But could they be that person that looks over a county assistance application? Yes. Could they be, if I'm at a meeting, could they call me and say, I have somebody here that didn't call or didn't email, you know, that stopped into the office and asked me a question about something, you know, could I call that veteran and, you know, say, hey, give me their phone number, I will call them because I can't have you know anything about their federal claim? Yes, they can do that. That's a service, you know, while I'm out at work. But if I'm on vacation, you know, it's still that face, that person being able to do something, at least acknowledge that they're there and we're still trying to serve. And to me, that's offering another service that right now we don't offer. If they come and my door's shut, and they get no assistance whatsoever.
How many CEU units do you have to have a year?
A minimum of 16. The average across
16?
16.
Okay, and those aren't just 2 days. They
No.
have all different times,
Yes.
don't they?
Yes, and they have to be in certain criteria. They
Yes. So
minimum.
in other words, what I'm saying is that assistant wouldn't have to go to the same meeting you go to. They could go to a different one to get their CEUs.
The only times that CEUs are offered in the state of Iowa right now are at spring school and at the June National Conference. Those are the only times that the state offers CEUs. Now, the problem with that is even now from fall school when we attended to spring school, come in March, there are going to be some federal changes that are coming down the pipe. Could you talk back and forth? Yes. But the issue here is the fact if you don't attend these schools, you miss out on so much knowledge that even me being accredited since 2007, going to these schools, you learn so much. We learned stuff in June about pension benefits that were coming out that the actual pension centers didn't learn about until the memo came out to them in mid-July. So we were told a whole month and a half ahead of them of a new law change. So I mean, it's very critical to keep up to date on that, because when federal code changes, hey, guess what? You don't get to use these forms. You have to fill them out a different way. And if you don't, then that veteran's claim is null and void, and you just lost pay time for them. I mean, there's financial hits that come to a veteran if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing to them.
Do they have online CEUs?
No. Well, they have some webinars, but not in all the areas that you would need. There has to be 5 CEUs minimum in a certain, there's like 4 different topics. There has to be an hour on appeals minimum. There has to be an hour on ethics minimum, and most of those are not something online that you can do. I do a lot of supplemental online. I do attend a lot of those webinars and stuff, which has been nice because then I don't have to leave the office, but I'm still not available to the public when I'm doing that. I shut my door until that webinar is done because you can't interrupt a learning process. You know, it's still a class that you're attending. So
were you done?
Go ahead.
So getting back to the difference in salary, roughly $3,700. So what you're saying is because of the use of the $10,000 for other items, this $3,700 doesn't change the bottom line of what the county would pay?
correct.
And then just out of curiosity, I suppose I can look at the minutes, but you got 5 members on your commission. What was the vote to support this?
5-0. Bruce was via telephone. Well, you can tell him, Bruce. Bruce via telephone was the one that gave the recommendation for me to change the budget that I'd already submitted to the commission members, so that at the commission meeting last Wednesday I submitted a new budget with what his recommendation was, and then the 4 members that were there, it was a unanimous vote between the 4 members that were there. So if you include Bruce's verbal recommendation in his choice, then it would be 5-member unanimous vote, because there is no financial impact on the county. There is no additional other than what you as Board of Supervisors had already allocated. Not even any of the line items within the administration had changed, which would have, because we would have to up for postage and phone. We're above expenditures on that right now, but there is no financial impact. It's just a realignment of the funds that were being used, and it's still appropriate by IDVA or Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs standards with the allocation person that does all this. So it was verified after Bruce had asked me. I did also contact Paul Group about it, to verify with him, and he reiterated that the commission voted to go along with it, and I said no, what they did was unanimously supported the conduction of the study. And I said, and this has no impact on my GA budget, so therefore I'll be back down to working 2 separate salaries if, you know, this passes, because the GA is not affected. And he was not aware that I had been making 2 different salaries all along for the past, I don't know how many years. That he did not know that when he gathered his figures together. He was not told that, so that was a surprise to him. But he does know about this. I did speak to him. I spoke to him about the per diem person, about a salary for that person, and he said since it's a per diem, it's up to the department head to do. I said it doesn't need to be pointed, a job description. He said no, because it's per diem. So I just went with whatever the direct care worker would be making, since that's whose budget or whose person I'm looking at. They would not earn vacation or sick time. They would be earning IPERS just because they're already an employee. So we would have to give them IPERS, where normally a per diem you wouldn't.
Would the $10,000 that you get from the state, could that be used for a part-time person and the training of that person?
Yes,
The
and
wages for
that is in there, and we do have extra money above this that is, you know.
So in other words, it could reduce your workload down.
No, because they can never work when I'm not there. So my
unless
work.
they're trained. This money could be used for the training of that person.
Right, but the person themselves could not be employed or working in that office unless I was gone.
But they could make calls to the nursing home or assisted living places like that for you.
Yes, potentially, but it would be a while before I would ever expect them to do that. It's no different than the person in Muscatine that's still in training that does not do any of that.
He's probably better off than the other person in the office who goes out and does that part of it.
I would think you would want your most experienced person doing the federal claims, because there are so many things that if we do it wrong, even though the county covers me on certain things, I can lose my accreditation and I can be sued because I did something with the federal government. So I could lose everything and lose my job through the state, and I can lose and face a lawsuit on the federal side if I don't do what is according to law.
Well, I guess I'm not too happy about this raise, not going along with the comp study. We sit here and everybody else is going along with the comp study, and all of a sudden VA's going way over, you know.
And the only thing is, where did you start her at in the comp study?
That what?
Where did you start her at in the comp study? You started her at starting position. She's been there.
2264.
Huh?
The 2264, but the comp study took into consideration, Verge, what other people were making in this area also. They took into consideration other wages.
Yeah, but you didn't take into consideration her experience.
We didn't do that with Bev either. How many years you been here, Bev? 40 years.
40 years.
She started starting on that position too.
But I don't think that's right. I mean, whether it's...
We gotta have some place to start though, Verge.
Well, I know you do, but
we can't do it for everybody except for one person. You know?
But if you hired somebody new and you would get her at the start, she would get the same salary as what Patty would get.
No,
yes,
she
would.
No, Carrie, explain it to him, would you please? You were on the comp board.
Yeah, the starting wage is what a person coming in will make. Patty, the current wage she is making, since the board approved of the step scale, we would actually, she's not starting at the starting, I believe. The spreadsheet, John, do you have that?
I do somewhere, but I don't have it.
So, yeah, in consideration, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that had nothing to do with years of experience. That was just telling us in 2 years this is what's going to happen with wages.
What do you mean I'm not starting at the start point? Because I make $21.84 now, and the proposed is the start, which is $22.64.
Okay, then that's what. Yeah, you are starting there then, but you're still getting an increase from what you're making right now. Comparable, that's what people are making for your job.
no, comparables wasn't what that was. Comparables are on the pay scale. And that's where I'm
The comp board took that into consideration, the comparables to other salaries.
right, which that's where the pay scale came from, but it also was the fact that I was below, because I start at below, and what was explained to us is, if you're at below, the first step you get to go to is the first one on the step scale. That didn't mean that that was appropriate for where I was. It meant that that was the first level I got to go to. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you at all. That's not what this intent was, and I don't believe what my commission is doing. But I've been below all along, and it hasn't been for the fact of us coming up here and trying to do that, but we were always told we were asking for more than what was right. But if you look at the pay grade 16, and if I had been paid higher and put into the middle of the bracket, I would be moving up on that. But I was underneath what the pay scale is for pay grade 16. I'm at 2184 currently.
Well,
And that
basically what this does is we have approved the comp study committee's recommendations. And it may not, in your budget, you may have worked it so that it'll work out and it won't cost the county any money in your budget. But what it does is it opens up the can of worms for the other departments. And I mean, you're the second one today that wants to go and bypass what the comp study's recommendation was. And if we start to allow that, the comp study meant nothing, and we threw our money out the window. So that's why we have, as a board, went with it. We put our faith in the comp study committee to put that recommendations together. They spent a lot of time and hours. I don't know what you two served on it, so you can tell us what kind of time you put into it. But
a lot of time, I know they did.
But then they brought that back to us, and that's what was presented to this board, and that's what we accepted. So, you know, Wayne's problem with it, I can see, you know, and I'm not going to put words in Wayne's mouth, but basically it does open up that can of worms for others to say, well, you allowed this one to do it and that one to do it. We do have other boards that are not subject to you know, setting the salaries, so that they set the salaries and we just have to drop the bottom line. But most of the boards that we've met with so far are going to go along with the comp study recommendations too.
Well, we stated that we thought we were following the study, but we're disagreeing with this implementation plan.
The other question I had is, I know in years past we have that $10,000 worth of expenses written down in here, and then we have the $10,000 revenue, and I don't see those revenue.
Yeah, you guys have always told me not to put it in there until the check comes, and so we're waiting on the amendment. Carrie already has that. As soon as I always get that, then I let Carrie know that it's there, and so she holds on to that until she does a full amendment every year, so that's why it's not there.
That's correct.
It can be put in there. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, it just, I mean, it is coming, it's not changing. If you want to see it there, that, you know, but in years past, that's how I've been directed to do that. Then a budget amendment, I think last year it was March that the amendment was done.
I guess I'm not following you. You didn't have anything in there, and maybe you're not going to have any employee mileage.
That's where the allocation money is going to pay, because that's an approved use of the allocation money.
But in years past, we actually...
Yes, you actually funded all of that, all the training, everything, every time I went. That was what that money was used for, yes, sir. And now the allocation money can now absorb that.
So if you add those expenses back in, there is quite a bit of increase in the budget.
If I add all those in, along with the salary, then the salary wouldn't be there. then the salary would not. I mean, it would be just like, that's why I had this sheet drawn up so you could see, because this middle column right here shows you exactly what it would be like with the start step and with those increases.
Oh, I'm talking about your total budget. If you
Yes, sir.
added those expenses back in that you line itemed out, your total bottom line would be quite a bit more.
Yes, but they don't have to be, because the allocation money will pay for those. Those are approved uses of the allocation, and yet we still maintained the level of spending that we have to in order to get the 10,000.
But if we had the approved allocation last year, we're not doing apples for apples.
Okay.
That's the only thing, is last year we had this budget had those expenses
And that
all
money has
listed
been,
out.
yeah, and that money is being used on outreach and different things. Like I said, we have about $4,000 right now that we're trying to figure out how to spend it wisely without being frivolous with the state's money. So we have spent it on outreach and different items that we've already purchased. The national training is in that budget, the allocation money to be spent also right now instead of out of the county budget. So the expense will come out of allocation money instead of out of the county budget this year. So you're not seeing that, no, but I've spent about, I think, $2,300 out of that line item right now. If you look, I've spent $2,257 right now out of 10,000, according to the current budget sheets that I have today. But there's expenses that are allotted to come out of there yet that you haven't seen the expense yet because that money hasn't been spent.
Patty, when I take your salary and I take it times $35 an hour, or 35 hours times $21.85, I come out with $39,767 if I take it times 52 weeks in a year.
Because it's only 30 hours. I have 5 hours under my GA budget.
Right, but I took the 35 hours times the $21.85.
But it wouldn't be 35. It would be only 30 because they only are controlling the VA budget. You guys control the GA.
Okay, so the other, you don't normally rate it a 40-hour week.
No.
5 hours going to.
5 hours goes to GA.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 5 hours out of the 35.
Right.
On that, I want to make sure I understand the budget. So if you spent $2,200 of this $10,000, the check hasn't cleared yet, and then you spend more than that, then there should be, you're going to eventually show 10,000 in then, right? But you're not showing it because you want to wait until the check is cleared.
Well, the checks, it's there. It's just that the board is always instructed just not to put it in there until the check comes.
Okay.
And so then we always do a budget amendment after the fact. That's how I've been told to do it in the past. I can do it any way you want me to do it.
I just want to
Some
make sure I
counties put it
understand.
in right away, and we haven't. But I mean, it's not like we can't.
So 10 will go in and 10 will go out eventually?
Yes, it has to. You have to show penny per penny to the state. I have to do a report to them, which you guys get a copy of how the money was spent.
You can't supplant.
The thing about that is, so Patty, I would rather see it in the budget. That way you see the expenses and the income.
Okay, and I can do that. I'm sorry,
you know,
that's not how I was told in prior years to do it. I can do that.
Initially, when it was set up, we didn't know whether we'd even get it or
No,
not.
I can.
The state didn't know whether they were actually gonna. I mean, we didn't trust the state to give us the money.
Yeah, I can do that. I haven't just because that's the way it's been done in the past. I can do it however you want me to do it. I have no problems either way.
Sounds like they want you, has the state ever not given the 10,000?
No, sir.
Well, it's probably a safe bet to put it in there then.
My understanding is it's not
The income
changing.
and the expense side of it. You know, what you're spending it for and what you take in. And to me, we played around with figures to get that increase in the wage there, is what it looks to me.
Well, it's realignment, sir.
But I'm not happy about it because it's going to open up a can of worms, and we got umpteen other employees in the whole county that we have to consider, and there's some employees that aren't getting any raise. But when we started this comp study, we agreed that nobody would take a cut in pay. Nobody would take a cut in pay. And we had a couple people that said, we're gonna take a cut in pay. Well, we've got to figure it out, and they are not taking a cut in pay. But the comp study was made, it was compiled with them people, and we had different people on that board, and they took an average of what the wages were throughout the county and other wages and put them together, and that's what they came back to us with. And that's what we accepted. And, you know, we made that a motion that that's what the raises were gonna be this year. Next year, there'd be a cost of living increase. This following year, there'd be a step increase. And that's the way the comp board's set up. We had to have something to start by, because we sit here and, we're gonna give them a percentage, we're gonna give them so much, and it was a wish-wash every year that we went through. And that's what this comp study is supposed to take care of for us. So we can put out there so the people know what their raise is gonna be, so they know how to budget for it. And I personally, I'm not happy with it this way, but that's my feeling on it. We went along with the comp study, and we'd appreciate it if everybody else did.
One thing you're gonna run into, the one thing you're gonna run into with the comp study is if you do have departments, let's use conservation or any of the other ones, if they do write a grant that falls within certain categories, there's only certain things you can spend it on. And so are we not gonna apply for grants? Are we not going to utilize those monies, or what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, this $10,000 from the state is a unique situation, I think. When do we have to decide? Thursday?
50 or
We don't decide now, do we?
for that.
Nope.
We've had it since 2006, I think they started doing it. Would you like to continue on to the other line items?
Yep.
As we discussed, there's several line items that got zeroed out. The biggest impact is veteran services, and we increased that $2,500 because we did have to make a budget amendment last year to increase because we had more funerals than we had planned on. So this year we're only budgeted for 5. Knock on wood, which I am knocking on wood. We haven't had to use any of that money yet. But we do still have 6 months left in this fiscal year. That's a gamble. So we did go ahead for next year, increase that by $2,500. And then the only other line item was a $50 increase in the Christmas donation money, which is that part of that food certificate. And I took that as what we got this year in donations and upped it $50 because that will come out on the revenue side, which is where that increase on the revenue side came from of $50. So it evens out. We spend what we get in for Christmas donations. So overall in the budget, there's a 7% increase for the bottom line. And 24% of that came out of veteran services with a $2,500 increase for funerals.
So that 7% will basically go away when you get that extra $10,000 to put in there?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, when you show that up, it'll be that we actually end up probably having a negative. Would you like me to ask the auditor to change that to put the $10,000 in both sides so you can have a better view of that?
Yes.
And I'd like to see what, in
She
that,
left.
when you put it in your expense side, what you're spending it for.
Okay. Well, I can give you what we have proposed right now.
That's what a budget is anyhow, proposed.
I know. Well, but there's some that's just sitting there now that we don't know. Those are your unknowns. But I can give you proposed already with that, if you would like, for next fiscal year, what we have for proposed expenses on that. Absolutely. I can do that.
Just so, because next time we see it, we'll have to make up our mind. Can you just give it, just ballpark it right now, or do you not know that right now?
Well, I know that the line items that we zeroed out, the $5,300 in mileage and the postage of $1,650
And then the difference, so I had 1,700 and I went down to 955, so $700, $800 there in phone. So that's all and then there's then we have the leftover money because the per diem person is kind of in there too, which that is showing up on here, but it's actually the per diem will be taken care of out of allocation money. So I will have Carrie adjust that, and that way you guys have new sheets, and then and I'll give you an breakdown of what the proposed expenses are for the $10,000 next year, and it'll show that there's also money left over, which right now in the works, I believe we're looking at doing another Kinnick Stadium veterans type appreciation thing, more heads up, a little bit more advertising on that to put more time frame on it to make better awareness. So that's what we plan on continuing to do as an outreach event.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys just want to wait a minute? I have to go through the GA stuff so you can get your stuff out of the office.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you have it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The GA budget is according to STEP, so 5932 with FICA and IPERS. Change in postage because postage costs went up. And those are the only line items. So there's a 2% increase on the GA budget and administration.
Looks like funeral went up there.
Yeah, that's in services. Funerals went up, and also rent payments went up for general services too, for general welfare services in the second section.
This shows basically one funeral.
Yes.
Are we still at that?
Yes. That's so far this year, this fiscal year, yes. But last year we had to do a budget amendment on this side too. So, we can take it out and then come back and do a budget amendment, or we can budget and then hopefully not spend it. It's a catch-22. Either you budget for it or you don't budget for it, and then you do a budget amendment. So, so overall to the GA budget, there's a 10% increase, and that increase came from the additional rent payments for the general public and a burial. And the 2% came in postage and the salary, the start step.
Revenue, you didn't get as much donations last year?
No. Not even remotely close.
Are the donations usually individuals, or do you have organizations that you count in?
I have one organization that this year told me that this will probably be the last year, and they usually donated around $300. That this will probably be the last year they do it. And I did have a general public person put more in than they normally. It was somebody new that gave money. But yeah, those donations came down drastically. I put a letter or an article in the paper every year asking for donations and such like that, but
I think a lot of people do it through their churches possibly.
They do, and honestly, it's a good thing that they do it to the churches, because the churches can help with first month's rent or deposits, which we can't do under our ordinances. So it's good that money goes there, in all honesty, because they can do some different things that we can't do. In situations, whether it's automobile repair and stuff like that, we don't have that allowance in our budget.
So when that happens, do you direct them towards the right people then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you're basically still providing a service, you're just not providing
I'm just
the
not
funds.
providing the funds. Yeah, I turn into more of a referral, just kind of like the situation that I came up today. I referred them, of course, to churches and stuff to help out with the deposits and first month's rent on a situation, but that, we could potentially help out with the other one, but I needed your permission to go ahead and do that because it was above and beyond, and in order to do that I have to get your okay to do that. Or if it was a VA situation, I would have to get their their vote to do that.
Can I go back and ask a question about veterans quickly?
Yeah.
Are you seeing with Iraq and Afghanistan, did you see a spike and then you're seeing it kind of level off, or are you seeing a continued spike up? What's the graph look like? The
I have
3-4 years.
I have some now that honestly have been back since 2008 and are just now coming in finally to seek out services because they have been tumbling since 2008 and finally are recognizing that they need assistance. And now there are more than ever more Vietnam veterans coming to access services because A, they're retiring, B, their health is deteriorating. Now is when they're developing a lot of the service-connected disabilities that they weren't, didn't affect their health prior to. So no, there's definitely more coming to it. The cases are being bigger. I think I've told you guys all before, the requirements of the federal claims now are completely different than they were 2 years ago, a year ago. Now we have to develop the whole claim before we even send it off. That means that I'm in charge of getting all their medical records, proving their case, and then we submit it as a full package because they only really want what they call fully developed claims, where it used to be the burden was on the VA to gather that evidence after the fact, but then it was taking so long and there were so many complaints about the process taking long. So now we have to do it a different way. So the burden has come upon us in our offices to get doctors to give us the information, to code their information when it comes, to highlight all their information as it pertains to the condition. So you could talk, stacks of somebody's medical files, and I do have quite some extensive medical files that I go through personally, hand highlight, hand code each one, and then submit it to the VA on the veteran's behalf. So it has become quite an elaborate thing, but in return, as they pointed out, we've lost 300 veterans since I started, and yet we have an increase of $4.3 million in federal dollars. That's federal money coming in for people to buy homes, pay their own bills. We aren't using our county tax dollars to do that.
Shouldn't that 300, do you think we'll begin to see that 300 go back again as you see the more Vietnam vets go into their mid-70s?
Well, that 300 is actually just how many veterans are alive and physically living here. That's just how many according to the latest poll or whatever, or that they have of veterans actually living in Cedar County.
Okay.
So whether the only way we're going to get more of those is if more of them move in.
I thought you meant those that you were actually
no,
helping.
those okay. No. That.
And one other question, maybe here or statewide, how many times are you hearing the story of a Vietnam vet with all kinds of medical problems and the VA playing games with the diagnosis so the federal government doesn't have to be responsible for Agent Orange contamination? Is that common, or is that?
Yeah, right now I have someone that, and for as small as we are, we have 3 Camp Lejeune cases in Cedar County. Camp Lejeune. Those are the Marines that were based at Camp Lejeune in the water contamination there, where they've developed kidney issues, kidney cancer, renal failure, premature birth defects, things like that. And we have 3 in Cedar County. I have asked and asked and asked at the state, and I've got 3 cases, and one just got denied because the gentleman smoked for a few years in his early 20s, and they're saying that his cancer of his kidneys came from his smoking. So they're blowing him off, and he has terminal cancer because now it's in his brain. So I am fighting on that. On the flip side, I am working with his primary care, his cancer specialty doctors, trying to get the right wording and getting the documentation to battle, and we are now we filed an appeal. So I mean, it's an ongoing battle, and even if he passes before they adjudicate him and say, yes, we agree, you're right, 100%, I'm still going to work with his family. Then I turn around and I work with the widow. He has a dependent child. So just because the veteran may pass away, his death may in turn be service connected, and then you start the paperwork all up again with the widow. So it's an ongoing, it never ends. You have Vietnam veterans. I don't know how many of you know that diabetes never gets better. It only gets worse. You know, I've had one that I see pretty much every 3 to 4 months because we have to file for an increase because he has a new condition or a worsening condition, or, you know, he's an amputee now, and, you know, I mean, there's just, it's one level to another level to another level to another level, and it never stops. So you may see them and say you only have 1,500, but you don't stop the service that you provide to them. It's not one and done. They're usually, it's more. And there are, yes, there's quite a few of the younger veterans that honestly haven't come to terms with what they need yet, and you'll see that, and you'll see a lot more Vietnam veterans filing claims because now they're retiring, and now medical conditions are happening, or now mental health conditions are happening, and which they were able to avoid for years. So it's very intricate, and it's hard.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, is there anything else to come before the meeting? If there is nothing else, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, motion been made by Smith, second by Kaufman. All in favor?
Aye.